Hey guys, Rob here. Along my journey to over 7,000 iRating, I have tried a lot of different sim racing products, from wheelbases, pedals, rigs, wheels, you name it. For a product to take a permanent spot on my rig, it takes a lot. There's a lot of different boxes that has to check for performance and comfort in the rig, as well as being a good training tool for real driving. And if you follow me on Twitch, you may have seen me using this wheel recently, the Soelpec Spectra XR. This wheel is packed full of different features and functions, and we're going to take a look at it today to see if maybe it's the next wheel for you. Now, before we start this video, I do want to give a few disclaimers. I do have to give a huge thanks to Soelpec for sending me this wheel, and I am partnering with them to bring you this review. That said, they have not taken a look at this review prior to release, so all of these opinions are entirely my own. We're going to be taking a look at all the different features and functions that this wheel offers, but I'm also going to look at it more subjectively and look at the benefits and advantages that it has in a real-world driving scenario. For the past year or so, I've been using the GSI Hyper P1, which has been another great wheel, but when Soelpec presented me the opportunity to take a look at this thing, I was super excited because it looks really promising. Now, some basic info about this wheel. It's a 302mm diameter wheel that's more of a Formula and GT style wheel. It does have a lot of the familiar buttons and rotaries that we see with other high-end options, but I think it's the way that Soelpec went about integrating the features into it that makes it so brilliant. The wheel is made of an aluminum body with a nice carbon fiber inlay on the front that looks really good. In testing over the few weeks so far, I've found that there's absolutely no flex to this wheel, no give at all, which makes sense given that it is made entirely of metal, but something that I would expect from a high-end wheel, and just another box to check off here. In terms of overall build quality, you'll hear me talking about this a lot today, but every single button, rotary, and other feature on the wheel is absolutely top-notch and something that I haven't seen outdone by any other wheel so far. And I'm sure the burning question on everyone's mind is the price. It's listed at €14.99, or about $16.25 US, plus tax, plus shipping. But I think this slots itself into the high-end wheel market nicely. By the time you add in some other features like carbon fiber paddles and accessories to other options, you are starting to get into the $2,000 mark, which is a little bit steeper. So to have everything included with the Soelpec right out of the box, one price point, I think that's excellent. And I do have an affiliate link down in the description below, so if you do shop with that, it will help out the channel. Thank you so much for that. Now, first off, we'll take a look at the front of the wheel. We've got a total of 12 standard buttons throughout the wheel, each RGB addressable and each customizable to any function that you want to map them to. Soelpec also provided a sticker sheet so you can customize the way that each button looks, and each button is indented, so the stickers don't actually slide around, and I don't see that becoming an issue with long-term use. The button press of each button feels really haptic. It's not too light, not too heavy, and in practice is something that I've seen. I have no issues at all with misclicks or anything like that. Everything feels really solid there. More towards the bottom of the wheel, we have 3 rotary encoders here, also adjustable for RGB and customizable via stickers, but these have multiple functions to them. So not only can you rotate them, they also do have press functionality and even press and turn functionality for an entirely different feature set. Above those, we have a funky switch on each side. I like using these for black box controls, so we can cycle through the menus, go up and down to find the function we want to adjust, press to activate, or twist to adjust the setting. Above that, we have 2 thumb encoders that I really like on this wheel. So the indentations and press are very affirmative with each one. The shroud around the screen also indicates that we are adjusting it, and it is two-way adjustable, so you can actually press it to cycle to an entirely different feature set. So we can have one set for brake bias, press it again, and then be adjusting a different feature like ABS. One other thing I do really like about this is the accessibility with gloves. I love using gloves in the sim, and with some other wheels I've found that the thumb encoders seem to miss on the adjustments or double click even. Everything here feels really good, really affirmative with gloves on, and absolutely something I love with this wheel. One thing that I think is incredible that Soelpec has done here is, despite the compact form factor of this wheel, it has a 5-inch screen on it that has really good resolution as well. When I'm out on track, I want to have access to the data that I need, say fuel level or brake bias setting, but I don't want to glance away from the track for too long. So to have that accessible and within the really beautiful dashboard that Soelpec has designed, I think that's all really good. Compared to the Hyper P1, which is, I believe, is closer to 4 inches, that extra screen size really makes a difference, and yet it doesn't compromise the functionality of everything else on this wheel. Now, a recurring theme that you'll hear me talking about today, and something that I think really sets this wheel apart, is the way that they've integrated all of the features together. So on the side of the screens, we have these buttons that we can press to cycle through the data on the screen. So things like relative, track map, or lap data. On the left, we've got some fueling data, throttle and brake trace, and even tire data. By using the left button in combination with the center rotary, you can change the theme of the wheel, which is really cool as well. Positioned around the wheel itself, we have a total of 23 RGB lights that we can use for things like RPM at the top. I really like having the side lights for things like spotter control to show when a car is on left or right. We can also use it for ABS control, and as mentioned, when we use the thumb encoders on the side, these all activate with a nice animation as well. I'm going to dive into the software behind this in a moment because I think this is another place where the Soelpec really shines. Now, on the back of the wheel, we've got 2 shifters. Each one is made with a carbon fiber paddle, and they've dampened the sound of the shifter, so it's not that kind of metallic click I've heard with some other wheels. Instead, it's more of a thunk that isn't too loud or too clicky. It's something I've really come to like over time. Below that, we've got 2 dual clutch paddles that we can use for launching the car. Now, we can set the bite point for the clutch both in the software and in the wheel as well. I'll show you that in a second. But again, build quality here, just amazing. Everything sounds very good and feels very good too. Another unique thing about this wheel is the fact that Soelpec has opted to go for these index buttons at the top here. With other wheels, we've seen option paddles, and initially this was something that I questioned the decision on and thought, maybe I would like this, maybe I wouldn't. In practice, I've found that actually, instead of occasionally going for the shifter and pulling the option paddle or vice versa with some other wheels, you have to be very intentional about pressing these buttons. And again, these are customizable for various features, but out of the box, Soelpec has built some features into this. So the right one can be used for throttle hold. Say you are running a long endurance race like the Daytona 24 and you want to hold the throttle at 100% while you're on the oval, you can do that with that button. On the left side, they've built in a brake hold for things like outlap brake warming. Not something that I use very often, but again, I think it's one of those times where it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. Included on the back of the wheel as well is a 42mm hub that attaches to any quick release that you might be using for various wheelbases. It does come color matched with the theme that you choose, so I chose the lava theme for this wheel, so it comes with nice red thumb encoders as well as the red hub to match. And of course, we need a way to connect this wheel to our PC. Soelpec has actually included 2 different options for us. The first of which is a coiled USB cable that connects right to the back and it screws into the wheel. No issues with disconnects or anything like that. The flexibility with the coiled cable is really nice for as you're turning the wheel, never stretching that USB connection or any of the pins. It also provides a little bit of flexibility for where you connect your USB into. And the second option that Soelpec provided is actually an internal USB cable. So with some more modern quick release systems, you can use this to power the wheel directly through the quick release if you choose to use that method over the coiled cable. One thing that's really blown me away about this whole package is its ease of setup. So like a lot of other options out there these days, it does come with integration with SimHub for customization. We can come in here into devices and add a new device, go find Soelpec and select the Spectra XR, and then it comes built in with a whole package with a dashboard that looks really nice, as well as RGB profiles and button lighting. If we come down here to additional plugins and install the Soelpec plugin, we get additional features on top of all of that. Looking through here, we get dashboard customization for details like the info that displays at the bottom of the dash, things like brake bias, ABS, fuel level, traction control, engine map. There's a whole bunch of different options that we can choose from. We can also save each of these 2 presets along with our bite point. So say we want to set up certain data and a certain bite point for the dual clutches for GT3 cars, we can do that for the first preset, and maybe we have another one for GTP cars on our second preset. You can name those here and go back and adjust those. Coming back up a little bit, Soelpec has introduced some new features for us, one of which is the blackout dashboard mode that I think looks really nice. We also get a gear indicator red light warning, which begins to flash the gear red when it's time to shift. I personally leave this off as the RGB lights at the top for RPMs do perfectly fine here. We also get a night mode with this new release from Soelpec, which is really cool for things like the Daytona 24. At night, this looks way easier on the eyes, and we can just disable it as we get back into daytime, which is really cool too. We can add our driver tags, so we can add a name in here for the dashboard idle screen right here at the bottom. Coming over to the second tab on here, we can see a couple additional options. So another new feature that Soelpec has integrated is the ability to add blended color profiles. This just looks a little bit different from our standard one color per button look. We also get breathing idle animations. When you're sitting in the idle screen, it creates some cool effects. Coming down below, we get rev lights for your RPMs. Now, this is something that I always recommend going to the car-specific animations. I've found some other plugins available through SimHub that do a very similar thing, but it essentially mirrors what the RPM lights look like in the car that you're driving. So say you're driving the Lambo GT3, your RPM lights on the wheel are going to match what you see on the screen's dash as well. Now, of course, a lot of other options on the market do support SimHub for that customization, but what I think really sets this wheel apart is its out-of-the-box functionality. The amount of data that we get on the screen as well as features through the wheel completely out of the box is just incredible here. Another real quick feature I want to highlight within this menu is the latching radio. So we can see this in the top left of the screen, but if we hold this left screen button and the microphone button for 5 seconds, this will actually enable latching radio, which think of your radio button now as a toggle. So say you're on Discord with your teammates, you don't have to push to talk every single time. Instead, you can press it to disable your mic or press it again to enable it. Another just really cool feature that I think Soelpec is innovating with. Now, coming back to the wheel a little bit, I want to show you the clutch adjustment button that's on the bottom left of the back. If we press that, we get into this more advanced menu where we can set the bite point for our dual clutches. And again, this is adjustable for each preset. So we can use the 3 rotaries at the bottom to do so. The left one will adjust in increments of 10, the middle one in increments of 1, and we can get even more granular with the right one, increments of 0.1 for that perfect bite point. On the right side, we can use this thumb encoder to select which preset we're actively using, so we can cycle between that GT3 and GTP setup. We can also adjust the bite point for each of those. It's one of those things that in practical use, switching between cars all the time, it's really nice to not have to manually go into software and set the bite point and remember all of our different bite points for different cars. Having these presets right out of the box, again, just amazing from Soelpec. Now, one of the big deciding factors for me with this wheel was actually the comfort of the grips. We get this polymer rubber grip design like we see with a lot of other options these days, but what really stands apart here is the way that they've designed the grip. So around the center, we get a nice wide diameter that fills the palms, but around the top and the bottom of the grips, it gets a little bit thinner in diameter. And what this provides is a more hand-feeling, ergonomic feeling that in practice just feels phenomenal. Despite always trying to drive primarily with my thumbs, enabling the ability to wrap my hand nicely around each grip just feels really comfortable and really solid, especially over long sessions. One other deciding factor for me on this wheel was actually the weight of the wheel. So it comes in at 1,350 grams, which is a little bit on the lighter side for wheels, but given its compact form factor, it wasn't too surprising. In practice over the last few weeks, the biggest thing that I noticed was actually an increased sense of understeer and oversteer. All of the force feedback that comes through the wheel, given that it's a little bit on the lighter side, is a little bit more prominent. And so feeling the limit of the car felt more natural to me and was something that really stood out. I think if the wheel was a little lighter than 1,350, it might be a little bit too on the light side, but compared to some other wheels, I found this to be an increased benefit through the weight. And one final thing to highlight as well is actually the user guide that comes with the wheel. Features 42 pages full of information from basics and info on how to use various features all the way down to how to use the integrated power function. So I think for reference, this is fantastic to see from the company, and it's up there with the best that I've seen in terms of documentation. In terms of customer support, I haven't had any problems with the wheel, so I haven't had to deal with that, but I have seen their Discord always be active in answering questions or concerns, even going out of their way to help people with setup on various devices. So again, that's one of those things where I think the passion of this company really shines through. So everything that we've covered with this wheel so far, I have been using for the past few weeks on iRacing, and I really don't think I can overstate that this is the most comfortable and feature-packed wheel I've ever seen. Overall driving impressions, again, the force feedback is incredible. I have access to all of the piece of information while I'm driving that I could ever ask for, and more customization than, frankly, I know what to do with. So do I recommend this wheel? You may have guessed it by now, but yes, absolutely I do. Is it the wheel for everybody? No, probably not. But if you've done all of the other upgrades that you're looking to do in your rig and you're looking for that fit and finish, that ultimate driving experience, I do think Soelpec brings that to the table with the Spectra XR. I'm really excited to see what else they have in store over the next coming months and years, but to see such a cool first product is really neat to see out of the company. One more thing I want to talk about as well is actually the integrity and the passion I've seen from the Soelpec team. Before signing a partnership deal with them, they said, no, let's get the wheel in your hands and let's make sure that you absolutely love it before you start blindly promoting it to people. Seeing that integrity from a company is really good for me because I don't want to partner with a company that I don't feel has everyone's best interest at heart and has passion for sim racing. That passion for sim racing is clearly evident through the amount of detail and functionality they've put into this wheel. If you enjoyed this review, do me a huge favor, hit the like button down below, subscribe for more content, and leave me a comment. What do you guys think of the wheel? I'm really curious to hear your thoughts too. I have to give another huge shout out to Soelpec for sending me this wheel, an opportunity to review it. It does check every single box that I had in mind, so you're going to see this wheel on my rig for quite a long time to come. I'm really excited to see what else they have in store in the future as well, and as always, happy racing, you guys. Catch you soon.